Oh, here we go again.
Oh, saw something about that. Do you want to swap? There we go, it's up there.
Yeah, it seems to.
No, it's worked.
It's good.
Okay, so we will start with...
Just 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. Okay.
Right.
Perfect. James from Sky Sports.
Okay.
Please.
Hi, Roy.
Hi.
Bill Kenwright sadly passed away earlier this week. You knew him well. How do you reflect on his life and his legacy?
I think he had a fantastic life. He was a fantastic man, incredible success, actor, theatrical entrepreneur, really. I mean, I've been to a lot of the plays that Bill's put on and invited me to. Fantastic knowledge of music. Certainly one of the most interesting people I've even listened to on Desert Island Discs as well. I thought he was outstanding. But most of all, Bill Kenwright was such a football fan and such an Everton fan. I thought it was quite incredible. And I've been very saddened, of course, that the fans, when they turn on the club, have also turned, to some extent, their anger on him these past couple of seasons. But if there's one person who deserves nothing but praise from all people who have Everton in some sort of regard in their heart, then Bill Kenwright should have been right up there at the top, because what that man did and would have done and wanted to do for Everton, there's no one ever going to replace him in that respect. Very sad for Jenny, sad for his family, and really, other than to continue to say what high regard I have for him, I can't really add anything to that.
Thanks for that, Roy. In the last hour, we've learned that Sandra has received a 10-month ban for breaching betting rules. How do you feel about the relationship between football and gambling?
Yeah, I said a bit of a rant's probably too strong a word, but I had my opinions on gambling and its influence, not just on football, but in the world today, and the damage it does. And this is just another example of it, really. I was shocked by the situation with Ivan Toney when it came out, and he received the length of ban that he did. So now I suppose Tonali's ban being accused, if you like, or judged of committing the same crime, one is perhaps a bit less surprised. But 10 months is an incredible time to stop playing football for 1 year, basically, and then have to come back to it. For him, it's a tragedy, really, and for the club too. But that's where we are with betting at the moment, and I suppose any players who feel that maybe I can still get away with doing a bit of betting while I'm a footballer, maybe they should really start to think twice now after what we've seen happen to Ivan and to Sandra.
From a Palace perspective, in terms of team news for tomorrow night, are you able to welcome any players back?
Not particularly, I don't think. I mean, we don't have so many now really out of the question. Of course, we still have Henderson, the goalkeeper. We still have Eberechieze and Michael Elise. So there's three quite big names out. Add to that James Tompkins, who's picked up a calf strain. But otherwise, we have everybody back now and ready to play. So suddenly the situation with regard to selecting the 11 and selecting the bench has become quite a different proposition to what it was maybe a few weeks ago.
So Jeffrey back in contention. How long will James be out for with the calf strain?
Well, he's missed a week so far, just over a week. So most of these things take 3 weeks, so I would think at least another couple of weeks. But it's not a massive strain which is going to keep him out for long periods, as has happened to all three of those, Eze, Elise and Henderson, were all very serious ones.
There was some good news with Nathan Ferguson getting through 90 minutes on Tuesday night, taking things slowly, but how close do you think he may be to making his first team return?
I was really pleased to see him play. I thought he played well. I've heard today, however, that he picked up an injury during the course of the game. I don't know the severity of that injury as yet. I can only hope it's not going to be another bad one for him, but it was good to see him back on the field, and I was pleased to be at the game and witness his performance. But as I say, I know he has picked up an injury, but I can't tell you how severe that is.
The Newcastle match.
Just need to change this cable.
Well, I haven't said anything worth listening to anyway, so don't worry. apart from with Bill Kenwright, I stand for that.
Toby, could you just push that door? Thanks. Thanks very much.
Roy, the Newcastle game, do you feel like when you look at what the team has built in recent weeks that was just a one-off?
I was reading today what I said after the game. I think Joanne logs what I've said after the game, just in case I don't contradict myself too much or say things that I really shouldn't have said. And really, I thought after the game, what I actually said sums up exactly what my feelings were today. We weren't helped by the fluky first goal. We weren't helped by the 2 goals basically on half-time and in first half injury time, which made the second half almost impossible for us to get back into it, which 1-0 down at half-time might have given us a chance. But the bottom line is it was nothing like the performance that we needed from the team on that day, and everyone's in agreement with that, staff and players. We've gone through it pretty comprehensively this week, and I'm really am hoping that that's not something which is going to happen on a regular basis. But unfortunately these days, if you're in the situation where we find ourselves, which is not amongst that lofty group of clubs at the very top of the league with lots and lots of money to spend, you're going to find yourself, I'm afraid, a few times up against a team which, when they're playing at their top level on the day, are going to ask a lot of questions of you. And on Saturday, we didn't answer those questions, but we're going to be in a similar situation tomorrow night. A team that's in excellent form, playing excellent football, really many good players. They're going to ask a lot of questions as well. And I'm just hoping that, the soul searching that we've done this week as a group will help us confront Tottenham tomorrow and be stronger than we were against Newcastle, who were very good. You'll be careful, like everything else. You can't put it down simply to the fact that they were very good. Everything's a balance. We were nowhere near as good as we wanted to be or think we can be, and they were good. So those two things combined, you get a bad result. But we've not shied away from it. We've not tried to hide from it as a group. And hopefully some of the things we've been able to talk about this week and discuss will help us going forward when we play these top teams like Newcastle and Tottenham Hotspur.
And just finally from me, Roy, how challenging is it from an attacking perspective, missing such key, influential, creative players like Eberici and Michael?
Well, they were so important towards the end of last season, there's no doubt about that. So it would be wrong to say we don't miss them, but I must say I think the players who've come in have done a good job, because before the game against Newcastle, our points tally for the number of games was more than satisfactory. But like all teams, you don't really want to lose players of their ability and especially their creative ability. So as far as I'm concerned, they can't come back quick enough to help us go forward and to help us maybe be a bit more potent when we have the ball in the opposing team's half.
Thank you. Roger?
Hi, Roger.
Hello, Roger.
Just going back to the Newcastle game, I was reading that since you've been back at Palace, you haven't lost 2 in a row in the league. You've always managed to bounce back and get a result the following week, whereas we've seen before you came, the team sort of got stuck in a rut a little bit. Is there something you can employ, some sort of tactics you can see to ensure that resilience and that bounce back from the team?
No, it's a good question, but you can't. I mean, really, it's just a hazard that hasn't happened. I mean, I'm pretty certain that, even in that period you're referring to, the first 10 games last season, had we met Liverpool one week and Man City the next, we could more than easily have lost 2 games in a row. That didn't happen to us. So there's a big risk that we will face the possibility of 2 defeats in a row now, because we're coming off the back of not a very good performance and a very bad result, and Tottenham are top of the table and flying very, very high and are playing extremely well. But I'll be surprised if I don't come away from the game tomorrow, irrespective of the result, feeling much better about the team, the players and our performance than I did against Newcastle, because that has been quite rare since Ray and I came back in March and joined up with Paddy McCarthy. It's been pretty rare that we've come away from a game disappointed, not only in the team, but disappointed in ourselves. That, you know, we weren't able to put the team in a better position to confront the match. So I don't expect that to happen, but like all teams that are probably facing Tottenham at the moment, or teams that are facing Man City and Arsenal, in particular Newcastle, those teams, there is an element of apprehension, I think is the right word, because you know that we're going to have to be really good tomorrow night if we're going to get anything from the game, because I can only expect them to be as good as they've been in the last 9 games and to play that quality of football.
You're coming across again, coming up against a new coach, and Postecoglou as well. I'm sure you'll agree he's done a fantastic job so far. Have you been surprised by how quickly he's adapted? Obviously he's coached all over the world, but he's come into the Premier League and he's hit the ground running. No, I'm not surprised at all. I knew Ange many years ago when I worked for that short period in Australia for the City Group. I came across him and spent time with him there. I've always known about his quality as a coach. I've always been impressed with him as a person, as a leader. So it didn't surprise me at all that he started well. I think that the recruitment's been good as well on this occasion. They're the right sort of players for him and the way he wants to play. So that's always good when you get that balance right. So he might have been unknown or a bit of a surprise to a lot of the people in the country, but he certainly was no surprise to me. And you know what he did at Celtic, which is a tough club to work at, was also incredibly impressive. So I shall enjoy meeting him tomorrow night, and I will tell him how well I think he's doing and congratulate him, but then hopefully we'll both try to beat each other because we have a lot of respect for each other. I think coming into the Premier League, people would have just wondered how he would adapt to the Premier League, but how much does the fact that he's coached in so many different places and built up his own ideas and philosophies in the game help him just to come straight into the Premier League and not have to be intimidated by this? Well, it depends by what you mean by adaptation to the Premier League. I think that the word needing time to adapt to the Premier League is more relevant to players than coaches and managers. You know, I think sometimes they do, especially if they come from a different country, come from abroad, a totally different culture, because of the intensity of the Premier League. You know, the fierceness, the lack of time and space that's there for you, and the physicality. That can be very different to a player from the league he's just come from. Coming from Celtic, playing in front of 60, 70,000 people every week and playing in the Champions League, coaching Australia, being at the very best club in Japan, I don't know you need a lot of adaptation to come to the Premier League. I'm sorry. But just in terms of in his own mind, his own ideas coming to the Premier League. Well, yeah, that's right. But I mean, one hopes, I guess, when you're the owner of a football club or a chairman, and you decide, I'm going to ask this man to be the manager or the person really who's going to decide how we're going to play, he's going to decide our philosophy, he's going to probably influence us on the type of players we get. You hope, don't you, really, that you've chosen correctly. And you know, if you've got any faith in your judgment, you won't worry about him adapting, and you won't worry about him putting his ideas across, because you know you've signed a good man, you've signed a good coach, you've signed a good leader. And that seems to me, from the outside, I can't speak for Daniel Levy, I can't speak for anyone who's doing the recruitment at Tottenham Hotspur. I have got no idea how their process was. But from the outside, as a fellow football manager stroke head coach, it just seems to me they've made a good choice because they've chosen a guy more than capable of doing the job and the right man for the job. Both yourselves and Spurs over the summer lost a player who was seen as a real talisman, a key player. You obviously had it with Zaha. They've lost Harry Kane. Is there a situation where losing that player can almost reinvigorate the rest of the squad, but other players step up? The coach has to come up with new ideas of how they're going to play, and it actually can, as we've seen with Tottenham, be a positive almost. I don't know, with the respect I have for Harry Kane and knowing the absolute quality and what that man's achieved in football, I'm not certain I can subscribe to a theory where
we've lost a player of his quality, but now we're better. I'm not sure about that. I mean, they're pretty good at the moment without him, but I would probably say that they would have been even better still with him. So I don't subscribe to that particularly. I don't doubt for 1 minute that with the way he's introduced his philosophy, Ange, to the players and got them playing the way he thinks that they should play. I don't have any doubts that Harry Kane would have embraced that, would have fitted in very, very well. So I think if I was to sort of continue the shower of praise, it's that it's not easy when you lose a player of that quality to get the others so much on the side as he's done. But once again, we're just down to the quality of his coaching, the quality of his work. Well done, indeed. But no, I'm not one of those who would say we're better now Kane's gone. And people saying that don't realise how important people like Harry Kane are to you. You know, people who score those goals year after year and then get sold for 100 and whatever it was £1 million. You don't shrug your shoulders when they go, just as we didn't shrug our shoulders when Wilf Zaha went.
Great, thanks, Roy.
All right,
Thank you. We're going to go to Ian from Talksport.
Hi Roy, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Can I start off by going back to the Sandra Tonali? The Premier League, a lot of clubs in the Premier League, a lot of clubs in football, this country and worldwide, are sponsored by betting companies. Is there more responsibility within football if players are addicted to gambling, or some are addicted to gambling, to maybe not have sponsors that are betting fans?
Well, it happens in the Muslim world, but I mean, we in the Western world haven't had that type of draconian ideas on what companies can sponsor football and what companies and what people can't sponsor football. And if I was involved in a betting company, I wouldn't necessarily agree that because we sponsor your club and give you lots of money, that means we're turning your players into gamblers. You know, the decision to gamble, the decision to do that is very much an individual decision. You could argue, and you could put, well, maybe with the result of clubs taking such an interest in football clubs, more education might be necessary. Maybe they can step in and help us. I couldn't disagree with that. But for me, you know, what happened to Ivan, what's happened to Sandra, that unfortunately is their responsibility, and it's not the fact that maybe they played for a football team with a betting name or a betting company's name on their shirt. I can't agree to that.
And do you think we'll see more problems with players getting into gambling, not only at the top level where they make a lot of money, but also in the fact that when I was growing up, it was George Best and Jimmy Greaves, it was drinking that was a problem, and then Paul Merson, it was drugs, but now it seems to be gambling.
I think it's always been there. I just think it's highlighted at the moment by these cases, but I think the problem in the world of football, just like any other world for that matter, gambling's always been there, along with alcohol and along with drugs. Much less so smoking in recent years, but when I worked in Italy, players smoked, and if you think smoking's a problem, then that would have been a problem during my time in Italy. So we're really talking about a social habit that is very much a part of the web of our social structure. You want to stop it. It's not going to be easy, but the one thing I think, as it has been with drugs, players realise now that if I am a person who, for some reason, wants to take drugs, or a person who wants to gamble wrongly, if you like, on my team, you know, I run the risk of getting very, very severely punished. So I think now no one can really say, well, I didn't know, or I didn't understand, or I didn't realise how important this is. We've made it clear to them how important it is. And that's, I think, all we can do. And I don't know the full details of Ivan Toney's case. I don't know the full details of Sandra Tonali's case. But I wouldn't be surprised if I did know the full details. I might have some sort of sympathy for them, but it doesn't help.
You know Ange from your time in Australia then?
No, I knew him before that.
What has he done that proven winners, Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte?
Oh, no. Don't go down that. I don't go down that route.
Go on, go down that route for me.
I don't go down the comparison route. You're talking about three of the very, you know, two of the very top managers in the game. you know, at the moment, I probably have to say that much as though I respect and like Andy and have great respect for what he's done, I don't know that his CV matches Conte's and Mourinho's. So if he continues on this track that he's on, then maybe in a couple of years' time you'll be interviewing me, although I doubt it, but it could happen in a couple of years' time, and then you'll be asking me to make that sort of comparison. I'll do it, but at the moment I'm content to say that he's doing a very good job. I think he's a very good coach and manager. I am surprised that people are suggesting it's a surprise. I've made that very clear, but I'm not prepared to go into discussions that, you know, why didn't Mourinho do it, or why did... Perhaps they did. I mean, I don't know. You need to really know what a manager is doing, how well or how badly. You've got to be in the club at that time, and I've only ever watched Tottenham from the outside.
Maybe a better question, because we like to always give everything a label, is how do you beat Ange Ball?
Well, I don't know if it's Ange Ball. I mean, it's a very technical way of playing, and like Manchester City, it's a flooding of the midfield with players, and of course the confidence and the ability to run the risk that when you lose the ball, you're going to be short of players at the back because you've flooded them into the midfield. So to prepare, if you like, to play against Tottenham at the moment isn't so different to prepare to play against Arsenal and Man City, who have a similar style of play. The problem with it is, it's not that you don't know what's likely to be put in front of you. It's the quality they do it with, and whether you've got the players within your team who can deal with what they've got in front of them. So that's how it is, but all you can do is make certain the players understand that this is the way that Tottenham play, this is what they're very good at, this is where they're going to cause us enormous problems, and to make certain that the players understand how we can best deal with that situation and make certain that they don't run all over us.
In your opinion, is James Maddison the signing of the season so far?
I don't really have I haven't thought about who the signing of the season is. I think he's a very good signing, and I think he certainly has made a very big difference. But you'd have to give me a list of 7 or 8 names and say, go and pick one of these. You've just given me one name to pick, and I might feel guilty of missing out one of the other 6.
Brilliant answers. Last two. First of all, 2 extra days you've got preparing for the Spurs, because they played Monday, you played Saturday. A benefit or not?
Yes. I mean, if you ask me would I rather have the 2 days extra or not, I'd say yes, I'd rather have it. I don't think it's going to suddenly weaken Tottenham, and we're going to see a lesser Tottenham than I watched play against Fulham on Monday night. But, you know, days rest, an extra day's rest, they do help. So it would be unfair of me to say it makes no difference, because it could, but I'm not really expecting it to. I'm expecting them to be fully recovered and to come out and play exactly the same way against us as they did against Fulham and plenty of teams before that into the bargain.
And finally, it's rare you ever come up against a manager you don't know. You've been in the game a fair while and you know literally everybody in the sport. Is it more fun when you come up against people you know well, like Pochettino?
I wouldn't say it's more funny, and I mean, I think that it's, you know, often the people that you come across, and they're not friends because you don't spend enough time with them to really be able to call them friends, but there's a good level of acquaintanceship, and it's always nice to renew that acquaintanceship if you happen to like the person and respect him and like him as a person too. It's always nice to meet them again. But unfortunately our life, especially those of us who move around, it's very difficult to get that close sort of friendship amongst yourselves, because we don't see each other that often these days, one, and two, the very good custom which I used to think was very good about England, and I missed when I worked abroad, that is after the game meeting up with the other manager and his coaches and discussing the game or discussing football in general. That unfortunately has disappeared largely, not least of all because of the mass media commitments and the fact that the opposing team often has to get away from the ground, or you have to get away from the ground. So it's a pity because, you know, if you go back to the past, the boot room and Alex Ferguson's office, you know, they were great places to be, but it's harder to find those places these days.
Thanks, Roy.
Pleasure.
Thank you. No, nothing, Rachel, nothing? Okay, that's the end of the broadcast section.